Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we were able to be at practice today, and I do have some observations. However, extremely disappointing, because when we got out there, we were told we were going to be able to watch 3 of the 4 sessions like normal. However, it was cut off after the first session, and we were only able to watch stretching. But I do have some observations from stretching. I want to point out a few things. Also, Athletic Director Dan Radakovich spoke to reporters after practice, along with 4 players: Jalen Rivers, Jafari Harvey, Tyler Van Dyke, and also Corey Flagg. I've got a few notes on them as well, but just with my observations from the stretching able to watch, there were a lot of guys in scout team uniforms, most notably wide receiver Jacolby George. You know, it's been rumored that he's going to be suspended to start the season. This only identifies that as what's going to happen. I asked Mario Cristobal yesterday during the press conference if anybody was going to be unavailable for Saturday's game due to disciplinary reasons, and he didn't confirm or deny either way. But certainly it looks like Jacolby's going to miss that opener the way it stands. We will hopefully be able to talk to Mario before the game, but if not, we'll just have to wait and see. And obviously check out InsideTheU.com if there's any reports that we can actually say definitively in terms of whether it's Jacolby or any other player. Definitely stay tuned there. So another notable thing with the scout team guys out there, and I'll have a full article on some offensive guys, some notable guys in addition to Jacolby who were in the scout team uniforms, which were actually the maroon and gold colors of Bethune-Cookman. That's new this year. Usually it's just a different color. Maybe it's a different white or orange or green, whatever it might be. But this year it's the actual school colors. I would assume they've got cool school color combinations for the rest of the season, so we'll just wait and see. However, I don't know if we're going to be able to get any viewing the rest of the year. Not hearing good things on that. Media Relations has not said publicly that that's the case, but I'm just worried or concerned that we're not going to be able to be out here because, again, today only able to see maybe 5 minutes of stretching, maybe 10, maybe a few after that, but again, very disappointing because it was not told to us. Actually, I thought we were going back out there. I left my stuff in the practice. I had to go get it because I had no idea that we were not going to see those final 2 sessions. So stay tuned for that. But speaking of practice uniforms, you know, I noticed Corey Flagg was doing an interview and his practice uniform was different. So I asked him after the interviews why he was wearing a different practice uniform, and he said he and a few other guys are wearing these prototype uniforms, and I'm going to show you guys here what those look like. Some prototype uniforms by Adidas, some practice uniforms that the team is looking to use maybe in future years. He said maybe 2023 or 2024, but definitely, you know, maybe depending on how it works, or he's going to test it out kind of thing. So I thought that was interesting, and certainly it looks much different than the Adidas ones that the most of the guys are wearing. But I just want to notice that, point that out, and I found that to be interesting. So let's talk about some other things I saw in stretching. Lucius Stanley, UAB transfer, and I do want to make note of this, and for people that have seen the video, the breakdown on Stanley, I appreciate you guys watching that, and I know some people have asked questions more about him because there was something that I said in there that he's been at UAB 6 years, and yes, that's the case. And the reason why he still has a year of eligibility left is because in 2016 he was enrolled at UAB. However, they did not have a team yet. They were working on restarting the team, so everybody during that 2-year span got a waivers. So because he did not play on the team per se, didn't have games, it didn't count towards his eligibility. 2017 was his first year the program restarted, and he actually got hurt and redshirted that year. Played in 18 and 19, 20 was COVID, 21 he played. Year 2022 is going to be his 7th year after high school, but his 4th year of eligibility. I know it's hard to keep track of, but that's been his journey. Again, 24-year-old running back. He was out there today. I was hoping to watch him in drills. I was going to show you guys. I think I'm going to show you guys the clips of just so you can see what he looks like going through the stretching. He wasn't in full pads. Like it works with all the guys. There's an acclimation period that they have to go through, even if it's even if they're new to the team. So they still have to go through their individual acclimation period before they're in full pads. The rest of the team was in full pads today, expected to be full pads again tomorrow during practice. And then tomorrow is also a lift session. I've talked about this as well. They've had these throughout fall camp, 1 or 2 a week, but tomorrow is one. It's going to be their final one before the game, so they have that after practice. Again, practicing in the morning. So let's get into some things that Dan Radakovich had to say. It was kind of a surprise to all of us in the media that late last night we get the release that Dan was going to speak today, and really he spoke for 10 to 15 minutes, spoke a little bit about the program and kind of where they're at. And one of the things that stood out to me, now he was asked specifics about facilities. because that's been a big topic around the program, with Dan taking over here. Are they going to get things started? When? And he didn't have any details in terms of a timeline or when they'd hope to break ground and things like that. So that was disappointing not to hear some more details, but he did give provide some details on season tickets. Said 35,000 tickets have been sold. They've got around 46 or 47, the way that the stadium, which holds 65, that's kind of the maximum. So certainly they're working towards that. But he did say it's about 6,000 more from where they were a year ago, is what he was told, because obviously he's just stepping in. So you're seeing an increase in ticket sales. Hopefully we start seeing higher attendance, but it'll be tough on Saturday. 3:30 game on ACC Network against Bethune-Cookman, not the high prestige program, but it is the opener. It's the first game with Mario Cristobal, and you're going to see a lot of debuts for a lot of new players, transfers, and freshmen. So it should be a big day for a lot of guys individually. Miami obviously should roll. They shouldn't have any problems with the score. We will see how everything goes, and it'll be our first look at what this offense looks like, at what the defense looks like. But it is hard to judge, and I hate going into these games expecting too much and really analyzing it afterwards. I think the thing that you're looking for is those explosive plays. The explosive plays is what you'll be looking for on Saturday, and to me, that's what separates a team like Miami compared to a Bethune-Cookman on both sides of the ball. And one of the things I asked Tyler Van Dyke about defensively, and I was able to get this question in last week. I wanted to ask him the same thing, but questions were cut off short. So I asked Tyler about the secondary, because we've heard a lot about the secondary, and the coaches are pleasantly surprised. They think it's going to be essentially they believe it can be a strength of this team. There's a lot of depth, a lot of guys that have played a lot. However, it's also a lot of the same guys. So I asked Tyler if there's something different he's noticing with this group, even though it is a lot of the same guys. And I do know they got a transfer, and Daryl Porter there that's fitting in, and they've got some other guys that will have elevated roles. But, one of the things that he said was they're playing a lot of, press and bail. And he feels like that's going to be good for his wide receivers to see that kind of level of competition in practice and taking it to the games, whether it's the first one or moving forward with the season. He just feels like it's going to be a good test for his wide receivers moving forward. And speaking of the wide receivers, I didn't do a recap from the press conferences with Josh Gaddis, Kevin Steele, Mario Cristobal on Monday, but I was able to ask Coach Gaddis a question about Frank Latson, because you guys know I've spoken highly about him on here. And we're not hearing necessarily the rave reviews. And I asked Coach Gaddis, because Coach said that, in the spring there were some things he had to get adjusted to with coming over from Clemson. It was an adjustment period for him. So I was curious, just an update from Gaddis, because he also coaches wide receivers, what he thought of Frank and how his fall camp has gone. And, it stood out to me because one of the things that he said was Frank's got to, continue to be confident. He said they got confidence in him, but Frank's got to show a little bit more confidence, is the way I took it. So we will see. I think maybe a guy like Frank getting off to a good start with all that he's been through in his first 3 years at Clemson, maybe have a good start to the season, these first couple games, maybe get some big plays, get his confidence back, because certainly when he's on top of his game, he does bring a lot of skills to the table, and that's why I am confident in him that he can have a good season. So something to pay attention to. Keyshawn Smith, another guy that Coach spoke highly about at the press conference, so we will see how Keyshawn did. And he also said, Keyshawn's coming on, so that's good that he's had a good kind of close to fall camp based on what Coach had to say. One of the things I was disappointed about not being able to see practice today was not being able to focus on Malik Curtis, cornerback, kick returner, punt return type guy that the coaches are speaking a lot about. And look, I heard Mario Cristobal speak about him on the radio, spoke highly about him there, and I kind of brushed it off because we're not seeing a lot out there. When I watch Malik, I think he looks similar to the other guys. I didn't see noticeable any plays, but again, we're not seeing him going against wide receivers very often in fall camp based on the viewing periods. So I didn't know if he was pumping up, Malik's tires or something like that. So, however, he did it again at the press conference, and also Kevin Steele brought it up. Then Tyler Van Dyke was asked about him as well after practice today. And again, Tyler said he's one of the most improved guys there, and they call him Wheezy, you know, and certainly he's doing a good job and making things difficult on the quarterback. So it's not just Mario saying it one time, multiple times from Mario, and then also the other coach and Coach Steele. We've not spoken to Adai all fall camp except for media day, so that's disappointing not to get a progress update on the defensive backs. Always like hearing from the assistant coaches, you know, providing perspective in addition to the coordinators. But, you know, Malik Curtis, maybe a guy to watch. And I asked Coach about, you know, kick return, you know, and he mentioned Malik Curtis, Xavier Restrepo, and Tyreek Stevenson, all three of those guys in the mix at kick and punt return. And after practice today, I did see, in particular, Xavier Restrepo working after practice, fielding punts. It looked like that's what machine he was on. So that's just something that he's working on. And one of the things coaches mentioned about that position is these guys got to be reliable. And I think that's something that Xavier's got to make sure he's on point with, because last year when he was in this role, or when he's been in this role in years past, there's been times where he's fielded punts where it's not looked like it was a good decision. So good decision making will be important. Obviously, fielding the punts are very important, and kick returns still, you want to have that explosiveness there. Obviously it's different between kick and punt return. A lot of different skill sets go into both, but that'll be something to watch. See who Miami rolls out there on Saturday for game day. And just lastly, just wrapping this thing up, I didn't want to go too long because again, we didn't see very much, but I do have some information I want to pass along. The last thing was I asked Coach Cristobal about on Monday was the #1 jersey. Some of you guys are curious about that. Coach was asked, you know, why no guy was wearing #1. He thought it was something that the guys had to work towards. You addressed that in the summer, essentially before fall camp. But nobody, I asked him just an update if anybody had done anything to work hard to get that #1, and what he said was no, but he did clarify in saying that guys did work hard. It's just that nobody asked since that initial conversation. So going into the season, does not look like anybody's going to wear that #1 jersey. I didn't ask about number 26, but that was another number that he mentioned that he's holding in high regard as well, obviously because of Sean Taylor. So I want to wrap this up. Appreciate you guys for showing your support. I always like hearing the positive comments. If there's things I haven't addressed in a while that you guys are curious about, or maybe you've got some things that on your mind, definitely drop in the comments below. So thanks again for watching. Game day's just around the corner. Have a good rest of the day and take care.